Welcome to a special presentation of The Mixing Room. I'm Daniel,
I'm Trent.
and this is part 2 of our best of season 1 highlights. So hop in your DeLorean. We're going to take you back to some of our favorite times from season 1.
We had so many good moments in season one, not only here at the table, but with our virtual guests on our bonus episode as well.
Right? And we had a lot of good laughs with Abby Hayden and Nick Carlson. And we talked with them in our bonus episode about audio, Belmont's showcase series, and their paths into the world beyond graduation, which at the time of that taping was imminent.
That's absolutely right. So let's take a look at some of our favorite moments from our conversation with Nick and Abby.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like Belmont does a pretty good job at obviously making me and other female audio engineers feel welcome. There is a group of us. There are multiple of us versus when I worked at Freeman, there were no women ever. There were no women ever. And it was very I don't want to. It was a little intimidating for sure, especially getting into it because it was just these long. I mean, I was working 14, 16-hour days and load outs at 1, 2 a.m. And I'm just in the middle of Selbyville, Delaware with no one that I know and it's just all men. And it just was it did feel a little isolating. But I feel like Belmont especially has great there are women here and they make themselves known and they put themselves in leadership positions, like how we were talking about Kennedy earlier. She is a beast. She's a role model to me, and our presence is known here versus when you go outside of Belmont. I feel like it's a little bit less. There are goods and bads for sure. For example, so it definitely a good thing that I've noticed was when I got selected to go, that I was flown up to Rock Lidditz in Pennsylvania and touring Claire facilities, Tate. It was super sick. But while I was there, I was talking to a couple industry professionals, and they're like, "So what do you want to do?" And I have a huge interest in being a monitor engineer because I would love an interpersonal relationship with the artist. And they were saying that there is a huge, huge market for female audio engineers right now because of the growing population of female artists and them wanting female monitor engineers just to connect with and to trust. I used to feel intimidated by it. I don't feel like I feel intimidated by it anymore. If anything, I feel very empowered because I feel many of the artists I work with are female bands, and a a number of these female bands, there's one in particular that I remember I was getting coffee with one of them when they were asking me to track one of their songs, and they were telling me about a previous experience where their old producer, was hitting on the lead singer, and it was just they didn't feel like they could do their best work in it because they were worried about these other outside factors. So I feel very appreciative that I can give female artists, a space to work and really reach their full potential and only having to worry about their art and nothing else. And I love that I can do that and provide that space for other people. I also would like to give an honorable mention to Nick as well, because I have brought Nick on board with me for 90% of my projects that have been all female bands, and he is he's so awesome, and he just makes everyone feel comfortable, and he's just there to work and not play games, and is a friendly face. And I just, even in this space that I want to create where women are only worried about making their art, I still feel like Nick is someone I can always bring in that I know is going to amplify that space.
Aw, I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
I have been the only man in the studio many a times with Abby. And they
And
always
they
call me
love
the
and they love
diversity
him.
hire.
Yeah, they call him the diversity hire. That was front of house boot camp, is what Nick called it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Abby, tell him why it was boot camp.
How many musicians were there? And how many songs? Oh my God, there's so many.
It
It
was
was
40
40,
songs.
40 songs. And each song was a different setup with different musicians.
And for what it's worth, if you're doing Van Halen music, that's a lot of pedals. That's a lot of crunchy, dirty
It
tones that
was
you
a
got to make come through
4 hour
clean.
long set. 4 hours of straight 2K in the noggin. At one point, it was like when Panama came on, I was like, Nick, you gotta drive. I gotta go sit in the bathroom for a second.
And I had so much fun driving on Panama.
It was awesome though. It was a great experience. Like, okay,
like,
so that
right
that was
after.
my first time mixing on a non-compact Behringer X32. So I went from the Behringer X32 to a CL5 Yamaha, and it was a beautiful console. I loved it, but I never worked on a Yamaha before. From going from, you know, mixing a Belmont House show to the Cowan it was a pretty nice venue at Topgolf. That was definitely a jump, and then go to a Behringer to a Yamaha CL5, that was also a pretty big jump. And then to mix a 4-hour show with 40 songs, each with a different lineup. And then there were 6 microphones. It was like Russian roulette, like which fader we were going to turn up on the microphone, and then they'd sing, and then it was the wrong fader, so we had to go to like our other 6 microphones and just like, it's like playing piano.
That's exactly how it was. The hardest part about that gig, I feel like, though, was that everybody there was a musician. Like during sound check, I had a line of people coming up to me who were like trying to give us mix notes, and we're like,
oh yeah,
dude,
like more kick.
I'm like, dude, she's working. Like we're 10 minutes into sound check. Of
Like,
course,
I'm
it doesn't sound
trying!
perfect yet. It takes time, but they're all like, you know, my buddy's up there, he's playing drums, and like the mix just doesn't sound right. It's like, we just turned the console on, man. Give it a little bit of time. A very unique story from a gig recently. It wasn't so much the audio engineering side of it, but pre-show, we were in a haunted green room. I work with a band who played a corporate event at this like golf resort in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, this.
And they put us up. Our green room was in like this old like plantation mansion, and we're chilling in it before show, and then all of a sudden like a couple old ladies walk into our room, and we're like, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, oh, sorry, we didn't realize people were gonna be in here, but can we finish our tour? And we were like, I guess so. And this security guard comes out from behind them, and then he goes, all right, ladies, this here is where 13-year-old Greta died of suicide. And we're like, what? You guys put us in this room? The room with the ghost in it? And then he was like, yeah, this is the most haunted place in all of Eastern Kentucky. And Greta still claims the room as her own and hates intruders. And like the whole band just started freaking out. And it was not the vibe, but it was hilarious at the same time.
Well, let's start with Abby. If you have a favorite fun or funny or just absurd showcase story that you feel like sharing with us.
Okay. Well, I think there's a quick one where I thought it was funny when I was on the intercoms and they were making fun of Daniel's dad jokes in the video world.
Hold on.
Like
It was my first show, y'all. I was just having fun with it.
But I'll say for when I stage managed, I remember I wanted to be as prepared as possible. I got a sparkly pink binder. I will come and show you guys. I was just so happy about my purchase. I have this beautiful pink sparkly binder that I got. I was like ready to girl boss the stage managing role. I have all of the stage plots, all of the input lists. I was ready. I then pull up with all my preparation, and they go, hey, everything we gave to you was wrong. And I go, great. I'm so happy to hear that. So I had to like go through and like cross off all of this stuff and like rewrite. It was just like I was already freaking out to begin with. Like with my preparations, I was already freaking out, and then to hear that everything that I had printed out was incorrect, I felt like my face was gonna melt off. And I went to Nick about it. I'm like, Nick, oh my god, my life is over. Nick's like,
yeah,
got it.
But you made it through.
I made it through.
Be sure to keep up with Abby and Nick's post-college lives by following them on Instagram. You can find Abby at Abby Does Audio and Nick at Nick's Tapes. And both of those will be linked in the description of this episode.
Yes. And thanks again to Abby and Nick for being our inaugural bonus episode.
Speaking of inaugural moments this season, we played a concert with Amber Cassidy on the same day as we dropped our episode with her.
That we did. And what a unique experience it is to get to hear the stories behind the songs as well as listen to the songs themselves, whether you caught them when they were released or got to catch that show.
Yeah, and we look forward to doing more events like that come the fall as we get into season 2. But for now, as we look back at season 1, enjoy some highlights from our conversation with Amber Cassidy.
My personal favorite from the record is my song I Tried. It's like this, it's just like a mental health song and just talks about living just like with mental health struggles and like how it affects the people around you, and thinking that running away from your problems is going to fix them, and it doesn't. But yeah, those are my two favorites, or that's my favorite, and then that's like Feel This Way is like people's favorite from the EP. Yeah.
Take me a little further into I Tried, but in a really honest way. Like,
Yeah.
it has to be somewhat difficult to write something that's vulnerable, that addresses that subject. And so
Right.
tell us what it means to, first of all, write it, and then record it,
Yeah.
and then release it knowing that you're putting that part of yourself out there.
Yeah.
Take us into that and how that felt, if it was cathartic, if it was challenging.
It honestly was challenging because just me as a person, I'm very like guarded. I don't really like people knowing kind of what's going on in my head, which is like weird when it comes to songwriting, because it's like I have to kind of put everything out on the table and everyone kind of has to know what's going on. You know, because songwriting is literally how you process like the things going on in your head and all that. But yeah, so I tried. I was really shy about I Tried before I released it or played it out or anything, because of the subject matter. Even just some of the lyrics, like writing it, there was like a long time where when I first started writing songs, I would just censor myself and like, you know, just not say the actual lyric that I wanted to say, because I knew that other people would be hearing it, and I just got self-conscious about it and stuff. But this one, I was like, no, like just say the thing, like just say whatever's in your head, whatever. So for a while I was really shy about it because it's very honest, and it's just very much like thinking that just like it's about like shutting people out, and like again like thinking you can do everything by yourself and wanting to do things by yourself, but realizing that that's not gonna do anything. I mean, yeah, like the chorus line is literally like, I tried running away but it didn't shut down the hurt. Yeah, in terms of like the music that I wanted to write, I like thought I wanted to like do funk music. Like I thought like I wanted like a whole horn section and stuff. But then that kind of like, for some reason I was like, no, this actually isn't what I want to do. And then I transferred over to like the R&B worlds. I always say I have like two songwriting brains. Like I write the R&B stuff that I like want to release and want for like my artistry and stuff. And then I have like a bunch of folk songs that I'm proud of and like lyrically I think are well written and stuff, but those like will never see the light of day probably. We'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind, but for the most part, like, yeah, just like, I don't know, doing something that's like outside of country also in Nashville is weird, and like I've really had to kind of be okay doing something different, because I feel like there has been a lot of times where I'm like, oh, maybe I should just do the folk thing, or like do the thing that like, you know, I know will be received quicker kind of in Nashville, but then it just doesn't line up with how I want to sound as an artist and stuff. So yeah. What have you guys been listening to?
Oh man, no one ever asks us.
Oh, yeah, we're on the spot. The Mixing Room Podcast.
Be sure to follow Amber on TikTok and Instagram as well, at Amber Cassidy, to keep up with those live shows and catch her future releases.
And thanks again to Amber Cassidy for sharing a bill with us and for sitting down for a conversation with us ahead of that show.
Though a lot of our conversation with Amber was lighthearted, there were some moments where she was really vulnerable, especially talking about the songwriting process and how she can write about subjects like mental health, which was even reminiscent of a conversation we had with Fletcher Not William.
Yes, earlier this year, Fletcher put out this beautiful concept album, and we've known him a long time. We wanted to have him on the show, and I think we were really prepared to have this kind of goofy, lighthearted conversation with him. And though obviously there's elements of that in there, I mean, he really opened up about some of the more serious events that were shaping his songwriting on that particular project.
Mm-hmm. And of course, one of those particular moments was talking about his song 4th of July. But there's so much artistry on the entire album. And he really gave all of those stories behind the songs, their moments, and their space to be told.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some of what Fletcher Not William had to say about his album, Hold Strong.
4th of July. Yes, let's get into that. This album is about perseverance, if I could sum it up in one word. The opening song and Hold Strong, the title track, are dedicated to victims of the Highland Park mass shooting that took place on 4th of July, 2022. So, the history was Summer League, my band. We were at a Battle of Bands competition, great opportunity. Bitter Gesture Music Festival, this great organization that promotes local live music, and we were there in Highland Park, Illinois, a suburb right outside of Chicago, on 4th of July at this competition, and a couple blocks over, a man opened fire at, I think killed around, a little less than 10 people, but he opened fire on a 4th of July parade, and it was really tragic, and, looking back on it, I think it did leave a bit of an impact, because that was kind of the first time that I was around something that was tragedy that was happening, right before me. And, it was, as unfortunate as it was very inspirational, and in the sense that it taught me to persevere and to look at life and to be grateful. And that opening track, those two songs, that's dedicated to the victims and to, I guess we can call it post-traumatic growth. It's growing past that. So, yeah, not exactly a Bruce Springsteen connection, but I like that you picked up on that. But yeah, so that is, and if you see the canvas on that in Spotify, it's 4 pictures that my sister took of Summer League on that day. What happened was, after the shooting happened, everyone basically fled the scene, and we met at my drummer Eli. We met at his parents' house, and we said to each other, let's put on our own show. So we all just scrambled. We put together PAs, and we had another band from the festival as well play with us. And we just had the families, everyone confused. Everyone's obviously just didn't even know what happened, but we played a concert, and that's what those pictures are from. So that moment really did shape me. It shaped all of us who's been a part of it. And that's also kind of why I wanted to put this album out, is because that was it was a life-changing moment. And the way I persevere now, and it's made me stronger. But it's also kind of made me have a shell in a way. And this album is kind of breaking through that and sharing with people the importance of staying strong, having a community. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Be sure to follow Fletcher Not William on Instagram and TikTok at @_Flet to keep up with his latest creative endeavors.
Yes, and thanks to Fletcher again for being so vulnerable in this space and for really opening up about the songwriting process on that record.
More recently, we had the opportunity to sit down and talk to Adam Castiller.
Yes, Adam's a good friend of mine. He and I knew each other back in high school, and in the time since, he's really gotten involved in the music industry, not so much as an artist, but as kind of a concert promoter and booker through him and his buddy Kai Mercado's company, Dugout Entertainment.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some of those clips and moments from that conversation with Adam Castiller.
Engineers, by nature, are obsessed with optimization and optimizing things. And if that is optimizing a workflow or optimizing a supply chain or optimizing a design so that it does the thing that you want it to do really well. But for the music business, the optimization problem there is how can we get the most people to show up to the best show that we can put on while also making the most amount of money possible. And that's where that was the problem that like was so addicting to me to try to solve. So there's a lot of factors that play into it. And like this is the data that we've been collecting over the past year and a few months. You know, we've started in March. So I would say like, but we had our first show in January of 24. So like, we'll say like almost a year and a half of running shows. The data we've collected and the trends we've seen really come down to like the volume and the recognition of the bands that we have playing. And it's like not that, you know, you can't be like a brand new band and like you're not going to pull people in, because that's not the case. It's also the people in the band. Are they in clubs? Are they in frats, sororities? Like, are they like outgoing? Are they like, do they have a strong friend circle? You know, it's like we had a few bands that were in clubs or fraternities, and like every show they played, their whole frat, their whole club pulled up, and like you have members in like multiple clubs. So like, you know, like the network is like, you know, you pop in the group and you're like, hey, I'm playing a house show. Like, you don't need to know Five Brothers to get into this one. Like, you could just pull up to this dude's backyard, pay $5 via Venmo, and you can see my band play. Or eventually it became like, you can pull up to the Pitch, like it's this new bar on Franklin Street. And then it turned into like, you could pull up to Cat's Cradle, which is like, back, if you're not familiar with Cat's Cradle, that is like a legendary venue in North Carolina. I think it's like a main tour destination for any touring act that comes through North Carolina. Like, you play the Cradle, like you've played a very well-known and historic venue. We're talking John Mayer has played there, Nirvana has played there, The Dead have played there, Phish has played there. Like, these like massive bands that like have gone on tour have played Cat's Cradle, and now like we're booking shows at Cat's Cradle, so like that's cool.
Yeah, I got to go a few months back now. I took a trip back to North Carolina for a week, and I got to go to see what you guys put on indie night.
Yeah,
at Cat's
that
Cradle.
was that was like technically a rivalry night. It was like that was how we marketed the event.
Right. And you had, was it Duke and Carolina bands?
Yes, so it was bands from Duke and Carolina for like the rivalry, and like that's another thing. Like, going back to optimization is like, if the band recognition isn't there, you need something to market the event as. You know, so that was like rivalry night. You know, we have a 5-band bill
because they were playing that weekend.
Yes,
basketball.
so Carolina and Duke were playing literally 2 days later. And like it was an uphill battle for that show for sure. 5-band bill, that's a little bit of a grind for like any concert goer. And you know, it was the main room. So like at Cat's Cradle, like even though it's legendary, it is like a little out of the way. Like, it's an uncomfortable walk. Like, it would probably take freshmen and sophomores to like probably an hour to walk to Cat's Cradle from their dorms, like just how Chapel Hill's laid out. And so like that's not convenient. So you're probably gonna have to take a bus, take an Uber, carpool with friends, or like, you know, we typically like we book our events based off of like the crowd that's probably gonna be coming, and like usually it's a crowd that has cars. Like, so, you know, that's fine. Like, of course, like we want freshmen and sophomores to pull up, but like if we want freshmen and sophomores to pull up, we're gonna book the event somewhere else, you know. But like I would say rivalry night was probably our strongest showing of, that was like our most optimized show. I think that was, you know, the set times were like perfectly timed. The bands we booked were like the biggest bands from each school, I would say. Like, maybe like we're not really tapped into the Duke music scene, but like the bands that we booked have deep friend networks and like deep networks of like people that will come see them. And like the Chapel Hill bands, obviously, like we booked the bigger ones. Like Brawless was still active at the time, so we booked them, and like they've been around for a while, so like they pulled in their crew. We booked a band called the Wallabies, who like they're new, but like their friend network goes really deep, and like they've been grinding on shows. Like, they've been playing a ton of shows coming up to that, so like people recognize the Wallabies. And like a band called Davy Circle, who is another band that has been around for like a little bit, and they have a strong following. So like that was like, you know, we knew that the UNC bands were going to carry the weight of turnout, especially because that following week was spring break for both UNC and Duke. So like we knew that the Duke students weren't pulling up. Like there were not going to be any Duke students pulling up to that show. Like I think we probably had like a good amount show up, but like not like nearly as much as the Chapel Hill students, which we sold 211 to that show. So that exceeded our goal of 200 tickets. But to hit that, we had to optimize our ticket prices, we lowered them down. It was the cheapest show we've ever hosted. $5 advance tickets, $8 day of tickets, which we like never do that cheap. We haven't done that cheap in a long time.
I was going to say, I think I remember saying to you that night, that's unheard of here. Like everything is bare minimum, $8 advance, 10 day of.
Yeah.
More realistically, 10 in advance, 12, 15 day of. I mean, right? Like,
Definitely.
And so like a good like thing that, again, like going back to trends and things that we've looked at, right? Because there's fees associated with selling a ticket, right? And so it's like you got to book the bands that are like cool with like, hey, the payout for this one might not be like frat money. Like for context, frat money is like
several thousand dollars.
Several $1,000s. Like you can get paid out anywhere between $1,000 to $3,000 to up to $7,000. Some of the bigger bands are asking for $10,000 to $20,000 to play for 3 hours, like at a frat. And like these frats have the money to do that, you know. And it's like, but like we pay people out. Like I think we paid everyone out that night, maybe around like $140 to $200, something like a very respectable amount for a venue show. Like some like I always,
because you guys need a cut, the venue needs a cut, and then you're talking about
marketing and
5
everything.
bands, you have marketing expenses, so
it's like it's an interesting puzzle, and like I think that rivalry night that you came to was like our most optimized show. I was very happy with that show.
Thanks again to Adam Castiller for taking some time out of his week to sit down with us when he was in town earlier this year. And be sure to follow Dugout Entertainment on Instagram to keep up with his company and their endeavors.
Alrighty. I believe that leaves one final guest that we have to talk about. If Adam was our most recent guest, then we have to talk about our very first guest, Sierra Jean.
Yes, we actually taped with Sierra back in the fall, so we're coming up on 1 year of work on this podcast. And so thank you to everyone who's been such a good listener and supporter of ours. And that includes Sierra herself. And she talks in that episode about what it means to have endurance, what it means to put out new projects in the face of adversity. She talks about her EP that had just come out at the time. She talks about playing live again for the first time in years. And we actually got to play with her on Broadway at the Rock and Roll Opry over at JBJ's Nashville. And we talk about that. And we talk about some of what she has in the works that we've gotten to hear in the time since.
Yeah, so let's take a look back at some of those conversations we shared with Sierra about her really cool projects last fall.
That and then Belmont really taught about hearing and the importance of your hearing. That is the other thing. And I know like we're skipping like, a little bit forward.
That's
but
okay.
What I took from Wilmington is about the voice, because that was what I was taught about my voice and how to grow my voice and strengthen it and all that stuff. But Belmont, because I was and we all were music business majors, the hearing component of it and having to critically listen to all, and we were all production emphasis too. Yeah. So the critical listening.
I had to look to Trent to make sure that was factually accurate. We've only been friends for like 3-4 years now. I ought to know.
But the hearing component is crazy because the critical listening, and also we are around loud instruments all the time. So, and we go to concerts all the time to go see our friends, to go see people that, are a little bit at a larger scale, stuff like that. But we're consistently around that. And if we don't have earplugs or something like that, then it's going to consistently be impacted. Maybe not like a lot, but if you go to enough things, then, and which is kind of a requirement of who we are.
It's another endurance thing.
Yes. And that's something I had to learn, period, at, end of story, with walking, with not being able to, not being able to walk on my own, is that without your health, there is nothing. Yeah. So, and that's with your voice. With your voice, if you don't have, if you're not warming up, if you are just consistently screaming for some reason, the lyrics and stuff like that, that you're going to consistently do that, and you're not taking care of yourself, then that's going to there's a threshold that's going to be met. So I think that's also why those things stuck with me so much, is because I had to learn that the baseline for everything is your health. Because if you're going and going, sometimes it'll just stop.
Yeah.
So-
And I think endurance and health in the physical sense, in the mental sense, the vocal sense,
Mhm.
any sense you want to categorize it in, perhaps shines through very honestly in your project. I mean, if you're listening to this EP that you just put out, it's in there. It's if not in the direct lyricism, in some of the subtext. And I mean, obviously This Far comes to mind when you're talking about something like endurance.
Yeah.
That song, first of all, just has such an impressive loud arrangement, something that you're tempted to not listen to at healthy volumes perhaps. But tell us about This Far, because that came out as a single and then as a remix, and I think it deserves the attention it's getting and then some. But tell us about where that came from.
Well, the crazy thing is that This Far wasn't supposed to reach anybody's ears. I wrote it in therapy. Actually, it was like a homework assignment, essentially, of like, oh, like, I know you're talking, but like, I know you're a songwriter. If that feels good to you, would you want to write a song so it can be a healthy outlet, and also so I can understand what you're feeling? And I came back the next week with a guitar, and I had This Far written. But I had This Far written without the bridge, and that is very important to note, because I've had this song for like 2 years, and the bridge of I didn't come this far just to get this far, and then the outro of I didn't come this far just to get this far, going from like unsure of like exasperation to, in the end, like, I didn't come this far just to get this far, meaning like I will make sure that and there was no spin on it either. It was just not it was just like the bare bones of it. So it became something. It was at first extremely sad. And then as I kept it and I worked on it more and more and more, and I was dealing with working on myself and working on my mental health as well, I realized that I wanted the song to also reflect that, instead of just being the same the entire time. I wanted there to be a plot throughout the song, essentially, and also what I personally believe in too. I didn't want it to just be one way. So This Far is extremely vulnerable to me, and to even put out, because that is my first song that I've written completely by myself that I put out. Everything else has been co-writes, yes. So This Far is the first song that I've put out completely by myself, with like in the writing sense, and it's extremely special to me, and I realized that it was worth it to put it out if someone else could relate, because I was like, you want to keep something that's like that. It's like my fight song, like, so like
Yeah.
like, it's, if someone else could relate to that, then that's worth it, because like, sometimes you want to just protect yourself, and like, it's very interesting going from like child pop star to, hey, I struggle, and other people struggle, and maybe you can relate to this, but like stuff like that. I went, and like, it's very reflective, but it was very new for me, so it was extremely rewarding to be able to put this out, but it was also extremely scary. But I think the reception of it makes me feel like it was worth it. I mean, it was worth it even if one person related to it. And that stands out to me, because that was like the first time we actually all hung out, that like it wasn't required of us to like be in proximity of each other. Like,
Yeah.
so like, it was just because we wanted to. So that was like that, but that was so much fun. Like, we just sat there and we talked about so many things, and related to music and to not, and the way that turns into where we are right now, post grad, sitting at a table with you guys. You guys just played 2 shows with me last week, at JBJ's, which full circle moment again, because
Right.
we love John Bon Jovi.
Thanks again to Sierra Jean for being our inaugural guest and for, taking the risk on us as she always does. You can find her on Instagram and TikTok at Sierra Jean Music to keep up with her latest releases, which, speaking of which, she's put out music since in the time since we did that episode.
Absolutely. She had so many cool projects going on in the fall, and those have not stopped. She released the stripped version of This Far, and make sure you guys are keeping an eye on those socials, like Dan said, to see what else she's got in store.
Well, thanks again for joining us, you guys, for parts 1 and 2 of our Best of Mixing Room Season 1. If you haven't checked out part 1 yet, be sure to check that out because there's some really great highlights in there as well. As always, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Mixing Room Podcast. Check out the link in our bio or email us at mixingroompod@gmail.com so you can learn more about how to get involved. Y'all, we really, really appreciate the love and support that you've shown this program, and it's really been a treat for us to bring this to you. We're really, really happy that we've gotten to do an entire season of this show, and we promise that from here, it's only going up.
Absolutely. Yeah. As we truly wrap up season 1 now, it kind of brings up a time of reflection, and we truly couldn't say it enough how grateful we are. Thank you guys for making this podcast mean anything, So please keep up that support as we head into season 2. We've got a lot of things that we are excited about. So
yes, keep streaming, keep liking, sharing, follow us, tell your friends to follow us. Thanks to everyone who's been on the show too, because all of you have taken a risk on us. You've been vulnerable. You've been hilarious. You've been great presences, and it's been a pleasure to invite you into our kitchen to have a seat at our table to talk with us about your art and your passions. So thank you guys so much. And then as listeners too, right? Like, thanks for inviting us into your earbuds and onto your TVs. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. And we promise, guys, we've got some really exciting stuff on the way.
yeah, we will see you guys again soon. Until next time, I'm Trent.
I'm Daniel, and we'll see you in season 2.